Good afternoon, everyone. This is Israr Alam, the founder and CEO of Kani Technology Services, and we are back with our second webinar session, the art of business growth in COVID-19 era. And today we are going to discuss a very important topic, that is e-learning. And luckily, we have a panel discussion today. So I hope the viewer will get a lot of insight about e-learning and the do's and don'ts. So let me introduce the panel first. So we have with us our partner, Mr. Mitul Das. He is the co-founder and CEO of Yours Digitally. And we have with us Mr. Sandeep Chaudhary, sir. He is the president of Calcutta Media Institute Private Limited. We have with us Mrs. Sara Israr, the co-founder and chief operating officer of Kani Technology Services. And we have Mr. Samuel Sudhakar, the founder and CEO at SME Consultant. And he is the director of growth hacking. And we have Mr. Arindam Paul, a computer science teacher at Aditya Birla World Academy. And last but not the least, we have Molly Vasu. She is the main brain behind this conference and webinar. So welcome all.
Good afternoon, and it's really a great pleasure to be a part of this webinar session where we have so many eminent speakers under one roof. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Israr, and I think it's a privilege that we are now slowly, taking one step at a time. We started off this as a very small initiative between Kani Technologies and Yours Digitally, and I think happy that this time we have a very eminent panel where Sangeeta is there, Arindam is there, Samuel is there, Sara is there, and of course you are there along with Molly. So I think let's get started so that we can bring in some good discussion around.
Let me, I have already done the introduction, so without wasting much of my time, I'm coming directly with my discussion. And my question to Sandeep sir is, what do you think is upscaling is the new mantra in this e-learning? What is this upscaling? Or do you think the latest knowledge rush is a necessity or just play an ornamental role on our LinkedIn profile? What's your thought on this?
Well, knowledge is something which I firmly believe needs to be continuous. And whether we have COVID or, we get into lockdowns, I don't think that's important. I think especially our sphere, and let's take me, for example. When I graduated out of college in '82, digital marketing was as alien as possibly aliens are. And, anything to do with, say, what we are currently doing today, we thought was science fiction. Science fiction has now become reality. And so, learning is a continuous process. And, so I really don't, subscribe to this whole thing of, just because we are under lockdown situations, we have to upskill ourselves. Upskilling is a continuous process, so it needs to go on. And, we will have situations, we will have differences, not really differences. COVID is quite different in the sense, in my 15 years of life, I've never seen the world shut down. And, so to that extent, it's different. Now, remember when you're shutting down and you're shutting down to this scale and when there is fear all around, the first basic need is to make people comfortable. If they are not comfortable, how is learning going to take place? You just can't start forcing things down people's throat. And remember, the vast majority of the population and the population worldwide, for them, working from home is a totally new concept. We've grown up with this situation where, when we were juniors, we were told, keep your office problems at office and, keep your work problems at work, and don't try and mix the two together, and try and keep them as separate as possible. Now you're suddenly in a situation where the work and the home is more or less at the same place.
Right.
And that's going to be first, especially for a generation like ours, going to be difficult to adapt. Two is okay, it's nice saying work from home. What if it was reversed? Who will be able to manage that? That's going to be a very difficult situation. So, before we start pressing on to people to start upscaling their skills because we think within quotes they have the time, may not be the right thing. How are we to know whether they have the right time? Remember, as far as we Indians are concerned, we now have to do our own marketing. We have to clean our own houses. We have to do our own cooking. Okay, luckily for me, my child is out, but there will be people with children. They will be coming in. They will be continuously at home. They will not be allowed out. So, you need to look after them as well. So there are added burdens which come on to you in this work from home. And, I do get sometimes a feeling, especially with the various consultancies that I do, I get a various feeling from clients that, ये लोग कुछ काम नहीं करता है. Now that's not necessarily and solely true because they have other sets of work which they have to because काम नहीं करता है. And I'm saying I have a teacher for a wife, a school teacher for a wife. She's far more busier than when she actually went to school because and the other thing about this, e-learning thing and online classes is we assume everybody else is connected. They may not be. There are families with 2 children, mother who's a housewife, father who's working. Between all of them, they may have one machine. So is the father going to work, or is the elder boy going to attend his classes, or is the younger girl going to attend her classes? So we need to take this, I've been reading a lot about, online education is the new mantra, this, that and the other. But is it? Are we as a country ready for it? Do all our kids have the available equipment to handle this particular thing? 2 is, do we have the kind of bandwidth, that we are talking about? And 3 is the time. 4 is, remember, learning is also an experience. You go to college, you go to school to, also imbibe, what that school stands for or what that college stands for. You interact socially with other people. This is a one-way traffic. When I take online classes, I'm telling you, honestly, hand on my heart, there's nothing more boring like that. You're talking to your computer, you're not being able to see what your students, whether they are understanding, not understanding. You cannot carry meaningful discussions because most of the times you have to tell them to keep their microphones on mute. Otherwise, there's sometimes strange sounds coming in. Sometimes they keep their video on mute because of bandwidth issues. Most of them are attending classes on phones. So when I'm, actually putting up a screen, I have to keep that in mind. This poor kid is going to actually see it on a small screen. So it's, nice saying these good things about upskilling, this and the other. But as I said, I think upskilling is a continuous process, and whether, we are under lockdown situation or we are normal or what fancifully we are now calling new normal. Search me for an answer on that one. But learning is a continuous process, and just because you're going into a period where, as I said, within quotes, you think there is more time, doesn't necessarily mean you start adding to it. And when you start adding to it, recreational stuff, like for example, over these last few days, I've done a lot of reading on photography and, hobbies, things like that. You want to develop. By all means, there are enough and more available. And online education is, to me, is honestly it's not a new concept. We've had online learning now for quite some time. most of the Photoshop, you take Photoshop tutorials or you take photography tutorials. They've been up now for the last 4 or 5 odd years. So if you are wanting to learn today, actually you can, in the last 5 years, there was enough and more material on the internet available for you to learn and upskill within quotes. Again, another jargon which come into our lexicon. You had enough to do that. Digital marketing, there are many courses which you can do online. Now, I'm not getting into the quality of those courses. That's a totally different aspect of it. But there are courses. There are some of them ridiculously priced at 1,000, 2,000 rupees, not even that much amount of money. I don't know what to teach there, but it's available. Students, that option is available to them. So to me, it's nothing new. Yes, we've been under different, what should I say, economic and psychological situations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have ample amount of time. We can, upskill ourselves and things like that. And to answer your question, whether it's ornamental on your CV, no. If you do have a skill, I think you need to put it on your CV. But a lot of the CVs that I see sometimes, it's there, and then when you question them on the subject, there is very shallow knowledge on it. So if you're putting it on your CV, you better be prepared to answer questions on that particular subject if it comes about. I would love to hear what the others have to say.
Great, sir. It's a great insight, really. So coming to Sarah, Sarah, does the future lies on Zoom calls, or Google Meet, or Microsoft Meet? Where is the education sector is heading? What do you think?
Well, Israr, this is really a very dicey question for me. But if we look into the present situation of this COVID-19 pandemic, then yes, in double quotes, yes. E-learning is actually the future of the education sector, because if we want to protect, because social distancing is the need of the hour, because if we want to protect ourselves from this terrific virus, we have to maintain social distancing, we have to abide by the government rules and the precautionary measures and everything. So in that particular situation, yes, e-learning is the future of education sector. But again, if we look into the harsh reality of our country, like where both the education as well with the literacy level as well as the poverty level, we are still way behind as compared to many developing and developed countries. Right. So, my dear, we have miles to go. Let me just share some facts and figures with you guys. Is that, like, as per the records, for the poverty level, we are still on the 49th position in terms of poverty ranking, which is not so good. There are many people in our country who cannot afford to have 3 times meals in a day, which is very, very bad for us. And as per the educational statistics that was recently released by the MHRD department in the year 2018, the overall literacy level in our country is 69.1%, including both the rural and the urban India, right? And above all, we still have this gender disparity in terms of literacy level. The gender disparity is huge in rural areas as compared to the urban India. So we have to do a lot of things. We have to do a lot of development in order to make our country in order to make our country survive in this e-learning mode, in this online mode. So to me, still, if I look into these facts and figures, to me these Zoom calls, or rather Google Meet or the Microsoft Team, whatever you say, these platforms are still a nightmare for many people. Let me just give you an example. Recently, we all must have read this news that class 9th Dalit student who was from Kerala, she committed suicide because she was not able to attend her online classes, which started from 1st of June. The reason being, she did not have a smartphone with her, and the television that was there at her house, that was also not working. So, and probably she was in a state of despair, and she thought committing suicide would be the best option because her family was going through tremendous financial turbulence and they could not afford to buy their daughter a smartphone. And she was a very brilliant student. And my dear, she was only 14 years old. I mean, this totally, when I read this news, I was so shattered. It was really a very devastating news for me when I read this. I mean, we are still living in such countries where people are committing suicide because they're not able to have a smartphone with them. They are not able to pursue their education because they cannot go out, they cannot attend the schools by going outside because of this pandemic situation that is going on in the entire world, not only our country. So we have to, this is just one example. There are so many more examples like this in our country. Our country is full of such examples. So I think the government have to take some serious steps towards this, so as we can help as many needy people as we can. Right? See, education is very important. We all know that it is actually the passport to the future, right? So the economic studies states that our country in the year 2018-19, our country spent somewhere around 3% of the total GDP on this particular sector, the education sector, which is somewhere around 5.6 lakhs crores, which is very less. Don't you people think so? It's very less as compared to the huge population we have in India. It's high time now the government should take action. They should spend at least 7 to 8% of their total GDP into the education sector, because this education sector is actually a very powerful tool. This education is actually a very powerful tool. If we utilize it properly, we can definitely change the world. So the government bodies along with the NGOs, they have to unite together. They should penetrate more into the rural areas where there is no electricity, no internet connection. People are dying because they cannot cope up with the present situation. They don't have anything to eat. They are dying because of poverty. They are dying because of lack of education. So we have to work hard. We have to penetrate into those areas where we can improve their literacy level. We can help the needy as much as we can. See, this is our country, our nation. This is my personal feeling I'm telling with you all, right? This is our country, our nation, and being a responsible citizen of this particular country, it is our responsibility to help the needy as much as we can, so that no poor people can just destroy their lives by committing suicide because they cannot fulfill the basic necessity of their life. I hope you all will agree with me on this thing. Now, lastly, I would like to say that we should encourage e-learning as much as we can, because this is the need of the hour, as I already told you in the beginning, that because of this COVID-19 pandemic, social distancing, we have to maintain social distancing. We have to encourage e-learning. We cannot go out. We cannot attend full-time classes like we used to do earlier. So at the same time, we have to take precautionary measures in order to prevent ourselves from this virus. And obviously, prevention is better than cure. So stay safe, stay healthy.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks for the insight, and I really shocked to see. I didn't know about this GDP spent of an education sector. So, thanks for sharing. Now, I want to come to Mr. Arindam. Arindam, my question to you is: how e-learning can result in professional growth, and how courses like game and app development can lead to a successful career? What do you think?
Okay, so as like Sara already said that there is that digital divide that is there in our country, and probably not only in our country. There will be many other developing countries, underdeveloped countries, those who are actually facing this. But then let us try to understand that this is the new normal. We will have to accept it. I don't know that when we are going to come out of this phase, of this coronavirus phase. Probably might be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, who knows? So the way we are executing the teaching, everything changed. The way we practice in the classroom, the way we used to do personalized education, we are not in that phase anymore. We will have to inculcate, we will have to cater, but we'll have to come up with new ways to do it. So the way we used to do, pedagogy is changed, practices changed, everything is now changed. Now that is what we need to accept it, and we will have to be open-minded that yes, this is what it is. Let us accept it and let us face it. So let us talk a bit about the curriculum that we normally practice. So education must incorporate the vision of the future. Now, who knows the future? No one knows about it. So right now, if I talk about that what we are giving them, or let's say that when I was young, what I got in the school. So, right now, if I am, let's say, a grade 1 student, what he is learning right now, he or she, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, they will be solving a problem which does not exist right now, using a technology which is yet to be invented. So if I talk about the ICT curriculum, or if I talk about the general curriculum, we will see that whatever we are giving them, are we giving them the skills, or we are just giving them the content? If not skills, if only the content will change. If they don't have the skills to survive, then how they are going to survive? So now life in the future will be quite demanding and multifaceted, right? Now then it is really essential to see the curriculum as much more than mere collection of subjects and like content. Now if I talk about that, what are the skills that will make them survive, that will help them fight, and that will help them be alive, let them alive, is, let's say, that the 3 21st century skills, which is critical thinking, creative thinking, as well as transfer skills. Probably you all are highly experienced, and you all know that there are various companies, there are various organizations which closed just because they actually didn't implemented the transfer skills when it was required, and right now they are no more in the market. I have a very good example, ITI. So like where I stay, there we had that ITI company. The entire nation used to use ITI phones, but we don't use it anymore. Why they didn't came up with that technology? Why they didn't transfer the technology? Why they didn't opted the new generation styles, new generation technology? Anyways, so let us come to the point that why app development, game development, and all these type of things are required. Now, if I go through the ICT curriculum of, let's say, 99% of the schools in India, let's only focus on India as of now, we will see that we are teaching them tools which they are not going to use like 15 years down the line. There will be a different set of tools. How will they are we giving them skills, or we are just like telling them how to use that tool? So what I feel that when I talk about app development, and when I encourage app development, game development to be practiced in the schools, so see, this is going to boost their executive functioning. And what are the 3 main areas? Like working memory, you can say cognitive flexibility, then inhibitory controls. Now these are the areas which will be developed and which we need. Now it is executive functioning is also responsible for various other things. For example, paying attention to certain facts and figures, or certain information or concept, setting priorities, staying focused. Now this skill is going to make you responsible for all these things. Understanding different point of views. If a person is trying to develop a game, what he is doing, he is trying to see that what the audience will look at, what the audience will get attracted to, and which are the target audiences. So they are really working on their creative skills, creative thinking. While writing that program, they are actually boosting their their critical thinking. They are trying to understand that how the problem can be solved. Now, when they are trying to understand different point of views, they are boosting their imagination. They have never thought of. Now, when I say working memory, now I am very like I can easily recall that I used to play a game when I was quite young. That was Contra. At that point of time, like video games like Contra and Mario and all these things were there. And when I used to cross one stage, I used to keep in mind that okay, how I came to that stage, because I will die and then I will again have to start the game. So that unintentionally, I was young enough, I don't know, but then that helped me understand that how I am able to retain certain piece of information because I need that information, right? So when I say game development, yes, you will have to look at all these different factors, and these are the skills which now game development, app development in schools, this is not going to make everyone a game developer. This is not going to make everyone an app developer, but they will be able to understand, they will be able to develop certain skills which they will require in future, because the skills that they are going to gain right now, they are going to develop right now, they will be able to transfer that. The concept that they are learning, if they are not able to apply that concept in a different scenario, in an unknown circumstances, then how will they survive? So this is, we can achieve these things by practicing such type of units in the school. So this is why I feel that game development, app development and all these things are really required. And then at the same time, e-learning, that is the need of the hour. We will have to accept it, we will have to understand that this is how it will flow, this is how it will go. And we will have to come up with all different styles, methodologies, and we will have to make the students learn. Now, as it was already been discussed that like doing an online class means I don't have a control on my student. They might be playing around, they might be getting it, they might like they are not like serious enough. So these things will happen. Face to face, executing a plan in the class and executing a plan in online platform, both things are totally different. We can do scaffolding while like teaching a concept to those students, those who don't understand. At the same time, online, we don't know that whether they are getting it or not. So these are the challenges that we'll have to face, and we'll have to come up with all different like strategies. And as I say that there are various pedagogies, there are various styles of execution which can help. Now, it is too early to say right now that like we will have to do that only. Yes, we will have to do, but then there are styles. We'll have to adopt that, and we'll have to master that. That's like what I feel.
Thank you, Arindam. It's great that you remind us Corona and all that. We used to play that game. So now coming to Mr. Sudhakar, very important thing, and as an owner, I hope Mitulda and everybody will love to hear the working from home. This is something which I in the 3 months still I'm not understanding this very working from home friendly career choice. So what do you think, Mr. Sudhakar? It's the best career choice to have working from home and enjoy the life?
Thank you. It's a great question. We are getting used to the new normal. In our consulting domains, we quickly aligned and made people to work from home, and also in terms of help them to align with the new tools, process technologies to work from home. And today I'm definitely want to talk about one of the career in terms of if people want to look at in terms of working from home, which could be the new normal anyways now. So gaming is definitely one of the career option that we should look at. And I'm just trying to give you some insights and trends and the skills that are required, which the students can take an informed decision before choosing this career. Now, point number A, if you look at in terms of the market potential, as per 2019 stats from Statsia report, Indian gaming market, we had a 62 billion INR. This was the market potential. And going forward, up to 2024, the market potential is going, as per the reports, will touch upon 250 billion INR. So in terms of, if you look at, there's a great potential in terms of gaming. You look at gaming market and choosing the right, you can definitely choose this career. Second, if you look at India, the Indian market, if you look at the gaming market in the totality, India is in the definitely the top 5 in terms of the gaming market. And going by the trends and the reports, where we up to 2024, India would reach the 3rd position. Currently, it's in the 5th. It may move definitely towards the 3rd position. Now, let me throw some lights in terms of the trends. Currently, we have around 300 million gaming community in India, and who are the people who have adapted to this? Obviously, it is the age group between 18 and 24, and here there's a very little gender disparity. Both men and women are adapted to gaming, and in fact, we were surprised to know that they play games almost 5 days in a week. Oh, that's quite interesting. 5 days in a week. And you look at now, as per the reports, going by the trends, as you know now, with the new normal, people have how they've adapted internet and digitalization, etc. So, as per the reports that we may touch up in terms of the gaming, the gamer community in India, in terms of will touch upon around 500 million to 600 million. So in terms of trends also, it makes sense to look at gaming as one of the great career. Third, I want to touch upon in terms of the app market statistics. Currently, we have around 2.87 million apps on the Android store, and 13% of the app, 13% of this 2.87 million, which translates around 347,000. These are the gaming apps which are available on the Android store, and there are around 2.2 million apps on the iOS store, and it is around 42% of the apps there are gaming apps. So you see there are clearly in terms of the iOS store, the percentage of gaming apps is slightly higher. So, and if you look at the nature of the games, we all know in terms of it is in terms of adventure and action, and we all we know how PUBG was a craze in terms of the action and adventure games, and followed with we also have a lot of puzzle games. You have today you have esports, which is catching up, and multi-player gaming is also catching up. And I also wanted to highlight 2 other interesting trends. If you look at education, my earlier speaker, Mr. Arindam, also spoke about what are the new trends that we could come in the education sector. You see today there are a lot of e-education, and they are using gamification as one of the trend in terms of trying to teach new concepts. So even in the education and sector, you can use this gamification that's coming in. And the other ones, great potential that is picking up is in terms of the business application. We see a lot of leadership and management, decision-making games. These are all leadership assessment games. there are a lot of games that can be used there, and it is still a great untapped potential. So if you look at now the what are the skills in terms of that is required, of course you need to have a good mathematics skills, you need to have good cognitive skills, you need to have good creative skills and computer skills. You see, when you have to design a game, there are two critical aspects. One is in terms of the visual aspect, the designing. So you need some great artistic creativity, etc. And then the second one is the development aspect. In the development aspect.
Sorry to interrupt you because the time is going to lapse in 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I'm very sorry.
I'm already done.
Okay. I'm really so. Okay. It's great to have this panel discussion.
So this C++ and Java is the language that they have to look at in terms of if they're looking at a career from a development aspect.
Okay, great, fantastic. So I again thanks each and every participant, Arindam, Sudhakar, Sandeep sir, Molly, Sarah, that we all find some time and share your great thoughts about this topic. And I would love to have you people again on our next session. So I thank you all, and your thoughts obviously will help the viewers to understand that what is the new normal. It's either working from home or e-learning. As Sandeep sir quoted, that the learning will not going to stop, be it at home or be it in the office or anywhere. So be there, and as Sudhakar told us that if you want to make a career in gaming, then you have to have a good mathematics and you should have cognitive skill. So thank you, and I would love stay safe at home. Yours Digitally and Kani Technology will always keep coming with new things, and so that the audience and especially Indian people get more information about